All right, welcome to the Erie Music History Podcast. I'm Chip Shell, your host, and today my guest is one of the Dock Boys. He's a guy that always has a smile on his face, and that might be because for the past 22 years or so, you've been living in Florida. Maybe not 22 years, but a long time as a musician, working for yourself, playing 7 days a week. I saw you when I was down there in Marco Island a few years ago. So welcome, Boyd Baker, to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Good to be here.
And we just determined that where I work right now, where we are at in the studio, it may have been the last real job that you had, right? I mean,
I don't have a real job.
Oh, that's right. Good point. Yes, you have the best job, actually.
This was a fabulous place to work, and I just had to answer the calling to play music in my life.
Yeah.
Full time.
So that was, let's see, you stopped working here maybe in 2000, and then you said
that's
right.
You
worked in Erie as a full-time musician for about 7 years, 6 years?
Yes, before I started traveling.
Who were some of those bands you said? Key West Express?
I was with the Key West Express. I was with Sam Hyman. I was with Rick and Brian Butler. Had a duo together with Emily Fote.
Okay.
And that was a good 7 or 8 years in Erie before I went to Florida and started full time.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, over the years, obviously, you and I, we have run into each other numerous times. And, you know, I only know a small amount about you, you know, I mean, from those early years, and that's what I want to get into here is, you know, talking about how you got started. So here's what I know. You're a Erie guy. You grew up on West 38th Street, right?
That's right.
You're a running back for prep.
That's right.
All right. You
yes.
graduate 82.
82.
82. So we're about the same age. You buy your first Gibson SG from Dick Bulling himself for $400, and when you're about 15 years old, right?
Thank you, Dick.
Yeah.
Oh my, what a guitar that was!
Yeah.
Oh boy.
You don't still have it.
The one that got away.
Yeah.
You know, what was I thinking?
So that's when you're 15, but that's in 1980, or that's in 1979 about. So by 1983, you're playing with, you know, Crossfire, you're playing with Henrik Ostergaard. So I want to know what happens prior to that. You just mentioned playing some gigs, you know, when you were in prep maybe.
Oh, absolutely.
But when did you start?
Well, if I go back to the beginning, I grew up on West 31st Street, which was close to the Liberty Plaza.
Oh, okay.
And there was a record store at the Liberty Plaza.
Raspberry?
Yeah. Raspberry Records.
Yeah.
And every Saturday, my brother and I, older brother, 3 years older.
Okay.
Big music fan. We were allowed to go up and buy 145 record every Saturday morning.
Very cool.
Yes, 99 cents.
Yeah.
Right? And we used to just spin records at home and sing songs, and all the kids in the neighborhood were doing the same thing. And there was one day where my brother had a Little League baseball game, and my dad was driving him to the game, and I was in the back seat just going along for the ride.
Yeah.
I remember my dad stopping at a red light, and a brand new song called Let It Be came on the radio.
Wow.
And I heard the piano mysteriously coming in, and when Paul McCartney started singing, it was when I saw the light.
Yeah.
It was it. I knew what I wanted to do from that moment on.
That's awesome.
It was really a moment.
Did your brother play music?
No.
No.
He's the biggest concert goer in America.
Okay.
He's a big musicologist.
Right.
With a major music collection.
Gotcha.
Like his entire house is loaded with CDs and tapes and videos.
Right,
and,
right.
Which no longer exist. I think he got rid of all of them and put them on hard drives.
Right. That's all you have these days. It takes a lot less
So now
space.
he's got real walls in his house.
Yeah. And so you said, I appreciate the music, but I want to play it.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I wanted a guitar ever since I was a little kid. I just saw the guitar and I said, Mom, I got to have a guitar, you know. I think I was 6.
Oh, geez.
And they thought it would pass like everything else. And,
yeah.
you know, 3 months later, I'm still saying, I want a guitar, you know. And she's like, all right, I think we should get him a guitar. So they started saving up S&H green stamps.
Oh, my God.
In those books.
I forgot about that.
Right?
Yeah.
And there was an S&H green stamp store down at 12th and Pittsburgh Avenue.
Yep.
Right where that Wendy's is.
Yeah,
now, right?
Yeah.
That's where this store was. And I'll never forget the day she finally put that last stamp in that book and looked at me and she goes, "Let's go get your guitar."
I mean, if you're younger than 40, you have no idea what we're talking about. Like, this was a big deal. You saved up these stamps and you filled these books, you know? Yeah, that's crazy.
She brought me down there to get my first guitar. And oddly enough, 30, 40 years later, I'm in Nashville doing a recording session with Joe Scatella from Erie.
Yeah. Been on the podcast.
And there's George, who is Bonnie Raitt's guitar player. And he and I hit it off right away. We're just, in the kitchen during NFL footballs on the TVs as we walk in to the studios. And he starts telling me this story about how his mom got him his first guitar through S&H Green Stamps.
Oh, my God. You got to be
right?
kidding.
Is he my best friend now or what?
That's awesome.
So Bonnie Raitt's a great guitar player. Imagine she hires a lead guitar player.
Yeah, he's no slouch by any means.
I was just playing acoustic that day.
Yeah. So back in the day, then, you're playing your S&H Green Stamps guitar. What was it? Do you remember?
A No Name.
No Name. Okay.
Tobacco Sunburst in color, though.
Acoustic.
Yes, acoustic, small body.
Right.
I remember it had a great sound.
All right.
First time I played it for my grandmother, she didn't think I'd be able to play at all. She fell off the couch.
Who were you taking lessons from?
I was self-taught.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Once I finally started getting going, and I was pretty much tinkering around with the guitar for a long time. But in 1975, when the album Frampton Comes Alive came out.
Doesn't suck.
Greatest selling live album of all time back then. And I locked myself in my bedroom for 3 months. And I came out and I knew everything note for note.
Nice. Yeah. Your folks must have been going crazy listening.
Right.
And you're only playing acoustic.
Well, at that time, I had borrowed an electric guitar, a Black Hagstrom, from a guy in the neighborhood. And it was one of these things where just take it and have fun and learn. I don't want it back next week. I think I gave it back to him 6 months later.
Who was the guy?
I forget what his name was, but he was a friend of my drummer at the time.
Wait, who was?
My drummer, Paul Heiss, that I went to Sacred Heart grade school with, and we started our first band when we were like 12.
Please tell me the name. I love these early band names.
We called, it's funny how we really couldn't come up with a name for the band, but then our drummer, a guy by the name of Mike Hilbrick.
Okay, yeah.
There used to be Hilbrick Music Store in Erie. And his grandfather and his father used to go and get all these great Gibson guitars from Kalamazoo, Michigan, and bring them back to Erie. Well, Mike was a fabulous drummer. I heard him playing Wipeout. That beginning to wipe out. And I thought, I need this guy as my drummer in my band. So he had a drum set, and the brand name of the drum set was Polaris. And that was right on the bass drum.
That's right.
And I said, that's what we're going to call the band, because it'll look like we put our name on the...
Yeah, right. That's easy. Easy advertising. They're doing it for you.
So we called the band Polaris.
And then you reunited with those guys.
Yes. That's
decades later.
That's right.
Yeah. Three-piece, right?
Right.
Yeah. So who else besides Mike?
Chris Dropcho on bass.
On bass.
And then Paul Heiss was the drummer. Mike Hilbrick has passed away.
Okay. All right.
But we reunited in 2014.
Right. I remember that.
And played for maybe 2 or 3 years, and then put out a couple original songs that you could find on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Did those guys still play?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they've got a fabulous guitar player and female singer right now, and they're working on their show.
Here?
Yes.
Here okay.
Yes.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we'll look for their names soon. We'll listen to Jack Stevenson's podcast, and we'll hear all about it.
That's where we'll find it out.
That's right. Two-Man Happy Hour. You got to check them out and listen to that, and listen to him and Nat the Hat, and on their weekly podcast, tell everybody where everything is going on.
Our biggest ambassadors for live music here in this town. It's great.
Yep, he does a great job.
So nice.
So Sacred Heart, you're playing music with your buddies, and you're obviously an athlete too. You're one of these athlete musicians,
That's all I wanted to do, play football and play guitar.
Okay, so it was just football?
Well, I played baseball and basketball, ran cross country, but football was my first love.
Yeah, and you're a bigger guy. You played fullback, right? Or something like that. I mean, were a lot of your teammates into music?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Music lovers. We used to sing on the bus.
Okay.
On the way to games, we'd be singing songs.
Yeah.
Oh,
cool.
yeah. Very much so.
So what other band beyond Polaris? How long did...
So Polaris went all the way through high school, So Sacred Heart and Prep.
Oh, wow.
Where we played all of the different high school dances and all the functions. We were as busy as I am now.
Wow.
Yeah. It was unbelievable.
No way.
Yes.
I didn't realize that.
We were really booked
I
everywhere.
probably went to some dance that you
Right?
played at.
Maybe.
You know, we're the same age.
Yeah, we had played everyone's high school dance, all the pep rallies down at Prep.
Yeah.
You know, when everyone's all fired up for a Friday
They'd
night
have
game.
you guys
right?
play too.
Yeah,
That's-
we would play at the pep rallies.
What kind of stuff?
Rock.
Okay.
Good hard rock.
So at
you
that
know.
time, what was it?
We were big into the band Triumph, you know, Van Halen.
Okay.
You know, we were playing just whatever was good hard rock at the time.
Right.
A couple AC/DC songs, you know, that sort of thing.
And you're singing and playing lead?
I'm usually singing backup at that time.
Oh.
Yeah. So we had different people singing along the way, and our last singer being a local guy, Jeff Kroc.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So he had the AC/DC voice,
Absolutely.
and that's where we were at.
Yeah.
You know.
Wait, so he was in Polaris for a while?
Yeah, at the tail end.
You know,
Yes.
Jeff was on the first season of my podcast, and
Okay.
I've known Jeff for years because of my Erie County Fieldhouse book.
Oh, yes, right.
And
Yeah.
that's probably why I remember him telling me about Polaris.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's another big music enthusiast.
I was just going to say,
Right.
he
I
is a
love that.
wealth of knowledge,
Right,
you know, about
right.
music in general. And if you haven't seen Hell's Bells in town, you
Yes.
got to go see the AC/DC
Absolutely.
tribute band. They're fantastic.
The Bellaminis is
Yeah, Bellaminis,
right?
right.
Yes.
Yep,
Yes.
right. And,
Grew up with them as well.
Kent Williams, he was actually on the podcast when I interviewed Marlene Flick, who you worked with at Sherlock's,
Yes,
I think,
Marlene,
back in the
sure.
day. You know, Kent's a great drummer. So we're just name dropping here. So
Yeah.
okay. So what happens then? You're in prep, and you graduate in '82, like I said,
Yes,
and
right.
you shortly thereafter are playing with Henrik Ostergaard, who goes on to
Right.
form Dirty Looks. I mean, was there something in between? What happened
Well, I went off to college.
at Barron? Or no?
Yeah, I graduated from Penn State Barron
Okay.
right here, which
Perfect.
was a wonderful school.
We were there at the same time.
And
yeah.
I was working at a music store and teaching guitar and bartending at Sherlock's. I had 3 jobs, so to speak, while I was
What music store?
MES Music, which
Oh,
was
yeah.
26th and Cherry there. Yeah,
The
for a long time.
mic stand that I use, I bought from Pat there.
No
back
kidding.
then. And it was used then.
What?
Yeah, it was used then. That's how long.
Oh,
I've
and
had
gear was good.
it. Absolutely,
Built to
heavy.
last.
That's right. Yeah. It has the the strong bass and everything. So you worked at MES when he was on Peach or on.
Eventually, we moved up to Peach.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
but most of our time was down there at 26th and Cherry,
Right.
where then R&R music
Ron
was.
was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
was
right.
around for a long time.
Gotcha.
But shortly thereafter, 1983, early in 83, I entered an ad for a band called Crossfire
Right.
that was looking for a lead guitar player.
Yeah. And they were already in existence.
Yeah, they had already been playing a year, and their guitar player was leaving. And I had gone to, I answered the ad. They asked me to come down, and we just fell right into
Did
it. Oh, boy.
So, for those of you who don't know, Henrik Ostergaard, great guitar player, vocals. He did go on to form the famous band Dirty Looks. Jim Chartley was the bass player in that band, also vocals. You replaced Chris Trott, right?
In Crossfire.
Yeah, in
Yes.
Crossfire, and Eddie Brozak was the drummer.
That's right.
All right, so that's who we're dealing with at the time, and you guys are playing the same type of stuff, like high energy rock and roll that maybe Polaris had been playing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, but originals.
Well, we were not an original band to start.
Okay, because they had some. Didn't
Well,
they?
possibly. You know,
Yeah.
what's nice about Henrik is he loved to make records.
Yeah.
And his enthusiasm and his dedication was unparalleled. Just fabulous. I mean, he made his first record when he was 14.
And I was going to say, did you know him already or know
No.
of him?
No, I had heard about when they had played what was called We Love Erie Days at the time.
Yeah.
And someone said, there's this guy in this AC/DC type tribute band that you got to see. And he was really impressed with them.
Oh, okay.
And I said, I never got the chance to see them, but then years later, it ended up being Henrik that he was talking about.
Oh, okay.
And he was really going for that Bon Scott, but Angus on the guitar as well.
Yeah.
Those 2 guys together, and one guy, that was Henrik Ostergaard.
And so when you show up for this interview, I guess, or this
audition.
audition, I mean, you didn't even know it was him.
No.
And
Right.
where was it? Do you remember?
It was just out on off of West 12th Street, where the bass player was living with his uncle at the time.
All right.
And that ended up being our practice spot.
Okay. All right.
And then we had a new drummer come in by the name of Paul Hausman.
Okay.
He was like Tommy Aldred back in the day. Just fabulous. He brought it all together for us.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
And we put together Crossfire, and we played as Crossfire for a year or two around Erie. We were kind of like the house band at the Landmark.
Oh, yeah.
There across from
Right
World
by
of
World
Music, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I think we were there at least one Friday and Saturday night every month.
Okay.
You know, that was kind of like where we were getting tight.
Because I know that in '82, the band Crossfire released a 45, and on it was Love on Demand and a song called Doctor.
Doctor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was prior to you.
Yes.
And guy I know, Dan Sheldon, has posted a picture of that. He has that. He has a great local record collection.
Wow.
So Dan is the one to go to for if you want to hear that.
Yeah,
but,
I'd love to.
Yeah, yeah.
My doctor says it's no good.
That was my point. You were still doing those songs, right?
Yes, those couple tunes, yes.
Perfect.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was so fun.
So Landmark, where else back then? Sherlock's?
We ended up on a mini tour, if you will. We played with a band from Youngstown. And what we used to do is tour high schools in the tri-state area. And either the band from Youngstown or ourselves would put together a 2-song show at the end of the day, the school day.
Okay.
Let's say 3 o'clock in the afternoon, with a show with both bands that night.
Okay.
So they could get a taste of what was going to happen. And then they all came. And we were sold out every night with these 2 bands playing we did it for about 3 months.
Huh.
Most fabulous time of my life.
Really?
Oh, it was great.
You're 20 years old or whatever.
Not even, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're playing for high school kids that you have not been far removed from age-wise.
Yeah.
And you're traveling around, and that's awesome.
It was a fabulous tour. And the band got just so tight. There's something about putting your sound out every night in a small theater, if you will. We just got so tight on that tour.
That's wild.
Yeah, it was nice.
Like 3 months, you said.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. And then what happens?
And then after that tour, Henrik had talked about writing our own music and even maybe possibly going out to California to do it.
Yeah.
So he had the vision. Here I am at Penn State Barron going to school, and he said, well, we're going to hit the road and we're going to go to California. And I had just started a semester.
Oh, okay.
And I said, I can't do it right now, you know. And then again, I don't know what I was thinking because that was my dream. Right. But here I want to be the responsible adult.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I gotcha. Yeah.
So they went out there to get started, and they came back here to recruit me, and I went back out there with them then.
Oh, so they did hang in there, and they didn't. Okay.
Yes.
And so
almost waited for me, which was, you know, because they knew what a tight unit we were.
That's awesome.
And
so
friends.
I know that you had mentioned earlier when we were just chatting that you worked at Sherlock's for a period of time as a bartender.
Yes.
Were you already there or no?
Playing.
Were you working at Sherlock's at all?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
During that time period?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was a bartender at Sherlock's.
Okay, so you're going to school, you're bartending,
right?
And you've got this dream of I'm going to go to California in '85 or '85. You go out there.
84 and 85. Yeah, I joined him in '85.
Right. So they're already out there in San Jose, right? Or
San Jose area,
right?
Yeah,
San
Francisco.
Leandro.
Yeah, San Leandro between San Francisco and San Jose. Yeah.
Right. And so I know you guys had like a rehearsal space and everything. Like he had all that figured out already?
Yes. We had a nice big warehouse.
Yeah, and that's where those pictures are
with
from.
A big stage. And we could play as loud and as late as we wanted. It was wonderful.
Was it? I mean...
What a way to put your act together.
I mean...
no restrictions.
How did you... I've talked to Steve McConnell, you know?
Yes.
I mean, who did the same thing and went out there, you know, with the snowmen and was living... very thin, you know. I mean, what were you doing for money?
I ended up being a bartender out there at a fabulous Mexican restaurant right on the San Francisco Bay.
All right.
So let's say I made maybe just a couple $100 a week at Sherlock's. I went out there and it was more like $800 a week.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
I went out there expecting to be broke, and I think I came home with like 10 grand.
Wow. All right. So you were doing all right. Did you guys play out there?
Yeah, we were doing mostly private parties.
Okay.
Yeah. And there were a couple other bands out there just getting started at that same time. Tesla
Okay.
and Rat.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you guys are playing as
They were
Dirty
our
Looks.
rivals. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So you ran into those guys?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
All right. That must have been quite the scene.
It was great.
Early 80s,
Yes.
mid 80s.
Right.
You know, that was hair bands.
Hair bands, 80s
Yeah.
hair bands, playing small arenas and parties, and yeah, it was great.
So
Yeah.
you weren't going back to Barron at any point. You played out there for a while. And so what happens then? Because I know that you didn't stay with them for real long.
Henrik had talked about coming back to Erie to write and get into more of a moderate, slower paced living area, if you will.
Yeah.
So he and I came back.
Who else was in the band? We should mention that.
Jim Chartley playing
Okay.
bass.
So he went out with you from...
He went out with us with Crossfire.
Yeah.
hmm And then our drummer was the California native, Paul
Okay.
was his name.
All right.
And oddly enough, his brother was a pitcher for the Oakland A's.
Oh.
And I used to go out and catch for him to warm him up before a game.
Wow.
Yeah, and every time I went to a gig, then my hand was killing me.
Oh, really? So when you're playing in a band with Henrik,
Yeah.
he's the lead player?
Henrik is a rhythm player.
He's just rhythm?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So you were
90%.
All right.
90%. Every once in a while, he'd say, I'd like to take a lead on this song.
I wondered, yeah.
But he always handed the lead guitar off to me, which, I was studying Randy Rhoads at the time. And,
Gotcha. All right. That's, I love hearing this from you because a lot of people know who you are, music-wise these days, and they may not realize this history of
beginning.
yours. Right. They
Right.
may think of him as, he's the dock boy. He's the
Yes.
guy that plays acoustic stuff,
Right.
know. I mean, you must miss it,
Oh, yeah.
playing that type of music.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm still a big fan of like Scorpions and Van Halen.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It'd be great if you could play in a full band
Oh,
as much as you do
I'm
now.
not done yet.
No.
I've
Yeah,
got,
absolutely.
I've got one more good band in me. I know
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So, does the band come back here?
it. Yes, we ended up forming a band then. Instead of having our drummer Paul from San Francisco, we came back to Erie,
Okay.
landed Steve McConnell
Right.
on drums.
Right.
Couldn't have been any better.
Yeah.
And
the,
then
the animal himself.
oh boy,
Yeah.
it was just wonderful.
All right.
And then Jack, I'm trying to think of Jack's last name, bass player, still around.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
He played bass for us when we were doing some shows at like Rainbow Gardens and Sherlock's and
That's what I was going to say.
Different
Where did
things
you
here
play?
and-
Did you play a lot when you came back to Erie? Or
no, just it wasn't full time like Crossfire,
oh, okay.
but
All right.
we were more into writing and recording with Keith Fischecko,
Right. Right.
and who was a wonderful producer for us.
Yeah, I knew you recorded at his original studio on 29th or
At
or
his
whatever.
house on 29th and Raspberry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Was that with Dirty Looks?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I
Yes.
wondered about that.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Keith was quite a motivator
Yeah.
because he's a great guitar player himself.
Right. Right.
Play that right, or I'll have to get on the guitar and I'll play it.
Oh, really?
Okay, no, but in a good way.
Yeah.
And we put out some good sound, and that was the beginning. Those recordings at Keith's studio is what got us signed to Atlantic Records.
Oh, okay. All right.
Right there.
And was John helping too, John Mazza? Or
No,
was it
he
just
wasn't
Keith?
involved. It
Okay.
was just Keith at the
Yeah,
time.
I know sometimes, they did it. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So how does that feel happen, Atlantic Records, that whole thing? I mean, you're with the band when they get signed.
I had just left.
Okay. All right.
So Henrik was in the process of shopping the tapes,
Okay.
and he was so good at that kind of stuff.
That's why I wondered, like, how does that?
Making headway and just promoting the band, marketing, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I was so happy for him. Yeah.
Well, before we get to you leaving, let's talk about the other guys that were in the band, your road crew. So Jim Roseberry,
Yes.
right? Fred Van Tassel,
Right.
and the man, Denny Thompson.
Yes.
I mean,
Couldn't have been any better.
great guys to have.
The
Yeah.
best.
Yeah.
You just felt taken care of.
You did.
Every show, anywhere you went, you had the confidence. It was all perfect.
Cool.
And it was.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big
Gosh.
part of it, especially
Oh,
for a
yeah.
band like that back then. You
Right.
had a lot of heavy shit to carry.
Oh, gosh. Big PA stuff.
Big
back in the
PA
day.
stuff.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So they would handle, getting to a show and setting up with the truck and all that. And
Right.
so it was just great.
Not like today with a Bose stick and a little
Yeah,
Mackie board.
A
Carry
lot of
bag.
sound, right? Yeah. It's all advanced.
All right, so give me the lowdown. Why did you leave? What happened?
I just got to the point where I thought I should finish my degree.
Yeah.
And which I did, and I went into the working world, which was 20 years of corporate America.
So that was about what, 87, something like that?
Late 80s.
Okay, all right. And they get the contract a little after you leave. That's in 88 for Cool for the Wire, right?
Right.
And so everything cool between you and Henrik at the time? Yeah. I mean, so it was an amicable split. You left.
Sure.
Who'd they get to replace you?
Paul Leyden, I believe is his name.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Good
I know they went through
player.
a lot of changes over the years. But,
even now with the reunion show that they've put together, I think Paul's still playing.
Oh, he is.
And Jack Pyers from Harpo. They've got that together, and they're doing the Dirty Looks thing.
Interesting.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, I knew there's a website for it. I didn't know who the guys
still
were.
interest in that band.
I'm
thrilled.
Yeah. That's awesome. So you leave them and you get a real job in corporate America. Not that music isn't a real job,
right?
And what are you bumming? I mean, it's the 80s.
No,
are you
I
still wanting to play with who?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I was always playing out on the weekends.
Okay.
And I joined up with Rick and Brian Butler, Steve McConnell on drums. And we had the most fabulous 4-piece band for about 3 years.
Was it Wanted? Or what was the name?
It was called Rick and Brian Butler Band.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because they had been playing, they established their name as a duo.
Yeah.
Rick and Brian Butler, and then so it's the Rick and Brian Butler Band.
Yeah.
And then you could tell between the two. And we were playing.
Oh, that was
everywhere.
You were playing everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't realize you were
every
with them.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday while I was working in corporate America and raising 3 kids.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
So that's in the 90s.
Yes.
Yeah. Because your son's born in 91 or something
Early
like that.
90s,
Early 90s.
Yeah.
So you're married with kids and you're playing Goofies, Sherlocks.
Rathskeller.
Rathskeller?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, John. Even back then. That was when they owned it the first time, I
That's
think.
right.
Yeah.
The first go around, and
Right.
we used to just pack the place.
Yeah.
And who knew you could have that much fun in such a small room?
I know.
It's just great.
Those Butler brothers are fantastic. We've already talked about Steve McConnell. I mean, he's incredible, but that must have been
solid, yeah.
lots of fun back then because they were at the height. I mean, everybody loved going to see them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Good dudes.
Yeah.
You know?
I remember when Mojo from Rocket 101 got
Yeah.
married, we played his wedding.
Cool. All right. Did you ever play the PI?
No, I had never played the PI.
Yeah.
It's funny because I was a bartender at Sherlock's and we were affiliated with the PI.
Right.
Same owner.
Right.
We used to go down there every Saturday and play volleyball.
Yeah.
And I used to go down there and see the bands, my friends in the Stabilizers, or even when Donnie Iris would come to town. But
Right.
I had never played the PI myself.
Yeah. You were there the last day probably.
Yes, right.
I was with you.
A sad last day.
Yeah. But it was a fun last day, man.
It sure was.
Yeah. I mean,
we went out with a bang.
Everybody remembers that. And, you just mentioned Donnie Iris. You've mentioned a lot of other bands over the years. You mentioned playing in Nashville. So my podcast, I always say, goes to 1990, But
yeah.
obviously you continued a heck of a lot after that, even with Rick and Brian Butler, but what ends up happening then through the 90s with you musically?
I was with Rick and Brian for a good amount of time. I joined up with Sam Hyman.
In the Sam Hyman band?
We put that together too, yes.
All right. Or what did you play with them as a duo?
As a duo.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
All
yeah.
right. Great.
Three solid years of just playing everywhere.
Great. Yeah.
And when we were at the Warner Theater for first night Erie on New Year's Eve,
Yeah.
it doesn't get any better.
No.
I'm standing there going, Bob Hope was standing right here.
Yep. Yeah. I've played there too. It's crazy.
Vincent
man.
Price. Put
Yeah,
on
right. Yeah. I mean, playing with Sam, it's got to be great,
yeah.
awesome.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Just the two of us, acoustic guitars and harmonies.
Right.
It was just great. And then after that, joined up with the Key West Express.
Okay.
That was a nice run.
Yeah.
And the Doc Boys ever since. 13 years now.
Key West Express, it must have been the early days of it.
They were already around for about 2 or 3 years.
Okay. All right.
And then I joined with them, and we got a 7-year run. The most fun I ever had.
Did Scott replace you?
Scott was with me.
Oh.
So Scott was playing lead.
Oh, you were playing.
I was playing
That's
acoustic
right.
and
Okay.
singing most of the songs.
All right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah.
So much fun.
Great band, still around.
Gosh,
Go see them.
Love them, yes.
Yeah, wonderful people. So what leads you to Nashville? The story that you told us about Bonnie Raitt's guitar player.
So I went down to Nashville thinking I was going to make a relocation.
Okay.
And I get down there, and I discover that none of the musicians are getting paid.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some of them start at 10 o'clock in the morning. Others start at like midnight, and it's just all day and night.
Yeah.
Now, when one of the waitresses would come up and grab your tip jar and walk around the room, she'd come back with $300. It was great.
Yeah.
But it was getting a little cold down there come November.
Yeah.
And I said, I've got to go to Florida.
Okay.
So,
but there's so the California trip was only with Dirty Looks.
that's right.
Okay, so that's when you and I were talking beforehand. That's when you met up with John Novello and
Yes.
went and saw him.
Made a visit to John at his house. Yes.
All right.
Fabulous guy.
Great.
Great Erie musician out of Berkeley.
Right.
What can you say?
And we're recording this now in August. John was just back in town playing with Jim Madden at the Manticore. You know, a beast of an organ player. World renowned. Like you said, you saw his gold record for Taste of Honey on the wall.
It's quite a sight.
Did you see anybody else in Erie out in California when you were out there, or?
Yeah, I probably met up with a number of people, not only just musicians, but friends
Yeah,
and other
right,
people
right.
doing their thing.
Right.
My good old friend David Fabrizio, who's
Yeah,
an actor.
right.
Then he's got credits this long,
Right.
as far as, but spent a lot of time with him in California. And
You just played a gig for him this week.
that's right.
At the Yacht
That's
Club,
right.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
his family. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was playing out there quite a bit. California's a tough market too.
I'm sure.
I remember playing 21 straight days up and down the coast from San Diego to Malibu. That was a blast.
Yeah.
April, maybe 2007.
By yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, going solo, playing up and down the coast. It was just great.
And they paid you for those gigs, obviously.
Yes,
That's nice.
please.
Yeah, yeah. So why Florida?
So I'm in Las Vegas to start. I'm playing in a band on the Strip.
That's right. You told me about that.
Yeah.
Like a
2000
bigger band, right?
Yes. And we'd start at 11 o'clock at night and play till 3 in the morning
Casino?
at a casino.
Yeah,
And it was wearing on me.
I bet.
And someone said, well, what are you looking for? And I said, I'd like to be outdoors, looking at the beach. Oh, you need to go to Florida. And I thought, okay. So I went down there to try it. I literally drove down there, went over the bridge onto Fort Myers Beach, and landed home.
Tell the story about going into the one place
Yes.
restaurant, and the guy was like, "Who?" It was like lunchtime or something, right?
Right.
And weren't you
Yeah, I
playing?
showed up at a bar, and I said, hey, I'm a musician looking for a gig. He said, I'm expecting him to say, you got a card? Do you have a demo? He goes, well, then get your guitar and come on here and play for us.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. All right. So I go in, I set up, I start playing. I played 5 songs. He comes out, he goes, I want you 5 nights a week. I thought, wow, this is how it works in Florida?
Yeah,
People are fun in Florida.
yeah, yeah. and that kind of led to other stuff, right?
Yeah. I mean, just, Fort Myers Beach has been hit hard with the last hurricane. So I'm down in Naples and Marco Island now.
Right.
Playing down there full time at the big beach resorts that have deep pockets.
That's where I saw you.
Right?
Yeah, right.
That was
yeah.
so nice.
Yeah, and you said like those big resorts, you become an employee of theirs, right? You have to sign up
Very
with them,
steady.
and it's a contract.
Yeah, you're locked in.
You're locked in.
Right.
So once you get in, it's a good deal. Like when we saw you, you were playing 2 different days, I think, and you were playing during the afternoon, maybe like literally right off the beach.
Yes.
But then sometimes I'll see you. You're on like the 3rd floor in the bar up there overlooking the beach or whatever, and you guys kind of switch because you said you knew all the different players,
Yeah,
right?
that particular Marriott has 9 different restaurants in there,
okay.
and 11 different music venues.
Wow.
And then in addition to that, I would do most of their weddings and corporate events.
Yeah.
So it amounts to probably 5 days a week at that one location.
Okay. All
And
right.
then another day or 2 at some of the other bars and restaurants on the island.
Right.
But fabulous beach resort to locked into. I just re-signed a contract with them. And,
Good for you.
I wasn't sure I wanted to, but they made a nice offer. So,
Good. So 7 days a week you're playing?
during season, meaning that from Christmas to through the end of April.
Yeah.
And then with the heat of summer,
Yeah.
I'm trying to go down to 4 or 5 a week.
Do you always come back to Erie?
I always had.
Yeah.
I was always a snowbird.
Right.
And come back for 5 months. I think everyone can guess which 5 months.
Right. Our best months. Yeah, right. Yeah.
And then COVID hit.
Right.
And I had 75 gigs canceled in 2020 up here.
Oh,
so I stayed in Florida.
Yeah.
And kept playing. And then now with the Marriott, it's kind of an annual job, but they let me go 1 month a year.
Oh, okay.
So I'm up here now every August.
Okay.
To play and have fun and revisit friends and family.
How many gigs do you have right now?
So I'm going to be here for 21 days, and I have 15 gigs.
All right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, and I'm putting campfire jams and all that other stuff together on my off nights.
Yeah. I was going to say I'm lucky to have got you on an off night.
This is my only night to do this.
This is a Monday night we're doing this. You just played with my buddy Viggs the other day at the Rathskeller.
Nick Viggs.
You played at the Yacht Club with your partner in the Dock Boys, Matt Kramer. So are these gigs that you have here with Matt or solo?
It's a combination.
It is.
I try to play with Matt as much as possible.
You do.
We have so much fun together. So out of 15, I maybe have 4 or 5 solo.
Wasn't Matt in Florida with you for a while, too?
Yes, Matt comes down to Florida every year, and we have the Dock Boys down in Florida when he arrives by the end of October through the end of April.
Wow.
I've got him down there, and we've got the Dock Boys
That's
together.
awesome.
It's great.
Yeah. It must be nice to have someone else to play with rather than doing the same thing.
It's a little lonely and playing by yourself.
I'm sure.
And all the weight's on you.
Yeah. I know that from talking to you from when we were down there, you mentioned these corporate gigs that you get. And I've seen some of your posts on Facebook. I mean, you get to open for some pretty cool acts over the years. I mean, who are some of the people that you've...
It's funny that these corporate events, they hire big name entertainment. And the people that have come down with... The first one was many years ago was Huey Lewis in the News.
Oh, wow.
And what a stage they set up out on the beach for him. It was just fabulous.
Yeah.
But I have opened for at corporate events for Darius Rucker, Toby Keith, Tim McGraw, and most recently, Sublime.
Wow.
Can you imagine?
That's wild.
Sublime at a corporate event?
Yeah.
I think they were related to someone in the company, but absolutely the loudest drummer I ever heard in my life. I don't even know why they had his drums mic'd.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, could this guy hit.
Wow.
Oh, it was fabulous.
Do you get to meet any of these folks when you're doing these things?
Yeah, they're coming up to see my show as well because they just got done with their sound check.
And you're doing your typical show. You're not doing like Sublime type of music when you're opening for Sublime.
Right.
You're
doing my thing.
Jimmy Buffett, whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, gotcha.
Whatever I kind of read the crowd and see what might go over.
Right.
And every once in a while, hit it with like a face-melting solo, and the place goes nuts, And I'm like, oh, my, filling it all over again,
That's right.
Yeah.
When Huey played, I know Jim Moran was his sound man for many, many years.
Yes,
although he's passed away. Was he with them then?
I believe so.
Was he?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, that's cool.
So I want to say that was 2013.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
Is when that show was.
Got those Erie connections everywhere.
It's great.
Yeah.
Everywhere I go, there seems to be somebody from Erie.
Yeah.
When I'm at a show down there, I go, hey, I'm from Erie, Pennsylvania. All of a sudden, this table goes crazy over here. I'm like, what? Really? Or they'll say, we're from Meadville.
Yeah.
I go, wow. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you talking with me today about all this stuff. What did we miss? Anything?
I'm just going to keep this going. I mean, the older guys here from Erie have really been a big inspiration to me for so many years, and they're all still doing it.
We talked about this ahead of time because we both feel the same way. I mean, we threw out names like John Novello already, but who else?
Mike Miller, Scott Campbell,
right?
Tim McLaughlin.
Yeah.
I mean, all these guys that have played in all these great bands that I used to watch back in the 70s.
Right, right.
And they were my inspiration then when I was 12, 13, 15. And here they are all still doing it.
Yep.
So I think we all just live a healthy lifestyle, keep this going.
Yeah. Keep playing.
Right.
Cool, man.
A lot of fun.
Well, that's what we do. We have a lot of fun with this. So I had a lot of fun talking to you as usual.
Thank you, Chip.
It's always
great
good
time.
seeing you, man.
Appreciate it.
Thanks. Hey, thanks for listening to this episode of the Erie Music History Podcast. I want to say thanks to the JPT Foundation. They have been a financial supporter of the podcast since the beginning, and they also give us a free space to have our monthly music night on the first Tuesday of the month. It always features our great house band, the Fabulous Leftovers, as well as a lot of other local bands and musicians. Sometimes it's a basic open mic after that, but it's a lot of fun. First Tuesday of the month, totally free. Any donations go to the Second Harvest Food Bank. It is BYOB. You can bring in alcohol, drinks, whatever you like. There's a great pizza shop next door, Pasalinquas. There's a Subway in the plaza, so check that out the first Tuesday of the month. Aside from the JPT Foundation, I want to thank Angelo Phillips, who has been a financial supporter of the podcast for the past couple months. Angelo is a great local musician who I will be happy to play with. Next year, we're going to play a few gigs together, so looking forward to that. Also, make sure that you check out Jack Stevenson's Two-Man Happy Hour podcast. Basically tells you where people are playing today, where and when, and you can check that out at the number2manhappyhour.com. Check that out. He also does a weekly podcast with our sound man for the monthly music night, Brian Waller, as well as Nat the Hat. So the three of them do a great podcast where they interview local musicians, and they again talk about who is playing where. But more importantly, they play a lot of local music on that. So check that out. That's Music Chat with Nat the Hat, and you can find that on Facebook anywhere. All right, that's all I got for you. Thanks again for listening.